Alright, the first unit that I have feel like is in danger of aging out right now is Teq Kefla, and that's pretty insane. This unit was very impactful on their release for the EZA. I know a lot of people, or there were some people who are not very crazy about this unit. They felt like it was pretty underwhelming, and if you got hit with them early in some of these boss fights, you know, they would die. And, you know, that really wasn't a huge issue, though, because it was, like, super. Like, if they got hit by a super, they would die, especially in these earlier phases where the normals were only 300k, 400k. So for, you know, even if they got hit, it wasn't, like, a common thing for them to die. However, we just got some boss fights right now that are really causing some problems with them. For example, like this Divine Order, or Divine Wrath and Mortal Will, you know, boss rush stage, the extreme side. I was running this Teq Kefla. I wanted to give them a chance in one of these fights because it's a very long fight, so they would get a chance to stack a bit. But this Zamasu absolutely destroyed her with a normal, by the way. It was a 1.9 mil normal because of type advantage. But that's the issue is, again, that's the amount of super damage you were expecting in Red Zone, Vegeta, or Goku Story in the USS stage. Like, those bosses were really a maximum of doing about 2 mil on those supers early on, so Teq Kefla was able to stack fairly well because of that. But when the boss's normals are doing 1.9, you know, that's where it becomes an issue, because the super damage that the Red Zone stages were doing before are now the normal damage for these new bosses, and Kefla cannot handle that in this meta right now. I mean, yes, they can dodge, but if they don't dodge, they're dead. It's dodge or die for them, and their dodge chance isn't high enough to warrant that. So I am putting them on age out alert right now. We got a short form fight in the Global Dokkan campaign special battle that they're not good in, and even in these 2 new boss rush fights, I would not chance them anymore, especially they're my first experience with them in that fight, is getting destroyed by that Zamasu. Alright, the next unit I want to talk about is LR AGL Super Gogeta, and I know it's really weird to include this unit right now, especially because, again, we did just get 2 fights where are long, and they are really good in those fights. Again, Super Gogeta, you'll see in a different video I'm going to talk about how amazing of a tank that LR AGL Super Gogeta is. But the issue, of course, is not the fusion. Heck, it's not even the Goku side, it's the Vegeta side. The Vegeta side is way too weak, and if we keep getting fights like Global Dokkan Campaign Special Battle 1, they're not going to be relevant. They're just not. That Rose is too strong for them to handle. Now, he can tank it fairly well if he pulls off enough supers to do so, but AoEs hurt him, and Rose starts building up. He gets absolutely obliterated in that fight. You know, I haven't had a great experience with them. Of course, once you get to Gogeta or to Goku, he's completely fine. But the biggest issue, of course, is going to be the fact of how strong bosses are turn 1, and that Vegeta is just not strong enough to handle a super like that. So that is the reason why I'm going to put him on like a like Fraud Watch or Aging Out Watch if fights become more like this, just because they're just not strong enough turn 1 to handle bosses like that. Of course, by turn 4 and turn 5, they are very elite, but it just takes that long to get there, and that is the biggest issue I have with them right now. And again, the reason why I haven't in this video. Alright, the next unit I want to talk about is LR TEQ Broly. I am very concerned about this unit right now, as I was just trying them out in the new boss rush fight. Again, this is kind of where I'm getting the basis of this video, is these new boss rush fights in the Global Dokkan Campaign Special Battle 1 to get us a feel of where this meta is shifting to. And I was running TEQ Broly and INT Broly in this new fight, and we'll get to INT Broly in a second, but this TEQ Broly, he did pretty good to start. I mean, he was able to handle some of these bosses, but again, you can't hide the base form in this fight. They just hit too hard. You know, the Rose good thing is these bosses are not attacking a lot of times. I think that's a good thing to note. I mean, it's kind of a way to avoid LR TEQ Super Gogeta, but at the same time, it helps you kind of you're not be in danger as often. But the thing is this Broly, if he takes a normal from any of these guys, he's just gonna die. But when you get to the transformed state, he can look pretty good still, but once he loses that 26% damage reduction, it is a huge problem. I was running him against the Vegeta Blue. We got to the Vegeta Blue portion. I think he finally lost that extra 26% damage reduction. This is without him supering, by the way. He did not super yet. You know, when my Broly got hit by a normal, he's Rainbow Broly, by the way. He was next to LR INT Broly, not in Domain. The Domain was out. He took damage from the Vegeta Blue's normal, the 1.8 million normal. That is a concern. If pre-super you cannot take that normal, we're gonna have some issues. And again, I guess I haven't seen how well he can tank without it, but if he supers there, that's a 2.7 mil normal, and he's just dead off a normal. Again, Broly has a chance to still be fine due to the fact that he's not on a 220% team yet, you know, and maybe he has the ability to extend some life if they introduce a new unit that's kind of like Rose or Blue Goku that help buff the team, like may buff all uncontrollable power allies or something like that. But I just know, like, there's no way he's gonna survive a 7.7 mil super post super against this Sword of Hope Trunks. You know, his limits were already being tested in these red zones, Goku and Vegeta story fights that were doing 5 mil. He's not tanking these. That's the biggest issue I have with this unit right now, is he's just not looking that strong anymore as he used to, which is fine. He's a year old. I mean, not a lot of units are going to be like Beast Gohan, who are going to age incredibly. But, you know, he had a really good run, but I'm definitely putting him on age out watch as we go through this new meta. Alright, the next unit, clearly, if we're talking about TEQ Broly, is going to be INT Broly. And INT Broly's already started to age out already a lot by the time it got to the 10th anniversary meta. But this is clearly the nail in the coffin. We have a physical boss that does 7.7 mil damage. You know, INT Broly is not surviving that. Here's the other thing as well you got to consider, is the fact that, you know, we have a new boss fight, right? The Rose and Zamasu, who do an insane amount of damage turn 1. And not that INT Broly can't handle that, of course, with his domain. He has a guard and all that stuff, but even then, he's not able to tank those kind of bosses. You know, his time was already running low. You know, he was already, you know, aging out, running out of time, but this is definitely the nail in the coffin. You know, again, just like TEQ Broly, you know, he had a year-long run, but even post-Super, he's no longer as invincible as he once was. And I can't say he's fully aged out yet. We don't know how the meta's going to shift. We don't know what that's going to look like. But as of right now, with these new bosses rolling out, I just cannot say that he is even close to a top 15 option anymore. Of course, he probably got pushed out regardless due to Rose and the Blues existing. But even without them existing, you know, I think there's definitely a huge meta shift happening right now. MUI Goku's easily a top 15 LR now due to the fact that there's strong bosses and no dodge canceling. So you have someone like MUI accelerating through the ranks right now, while you have units like LR INT Broly and LR TEQ Broly losing stock very quickly due to the fact that we're having bosses that they can no longer tank. Alright, let's keep looking at middle-of-the-pack LRs that are definitely on their way out of being in the relevant meta, and that is EZA LR INT Namek. Of course, his main value is always festival battles, but again, as we get to shorter and shorter content, EZA Namek is not going to be able to handle these bosses right away. He was already struggling to tank some of these bosses early in fights that were not even doing that crazy of damage. Now you got guys doing supers as normals, and there's no way Nameku's going to be able to handle that in the meta. Of course, even fully built up, he's not going to be able to handle it. He's a kind of the middle of the pack guy. Like, he can take a 7 mil super, but the issue is this fight is going too long. And once he loses his all too important guard, he's no longer important in this fight. He just becomes absolute fodder. Again, he already wasn't a super relevant option in these fights in the first place, but when we're already going away from extremely long meta to fights that are kind of middle of the pack, you know, where there are some fights that are 7 to 10 turns, you know, these boss rush fights, I would say, is probably around that ballpark. But by the time you get to Sword of Hope Trunks, for example, it's probably turn 10, turn 11 already. He's already lost his guard. He's nowhere near tanking enough, even in slot 1, to tank a super like that. And again, he's an enemy. I'm not going to, or an int card. I'm not going to really take that away from them because there's probably going to be bosses later on that are AGL or are Tech or something like that. But the biggest issue, of course, right now is going to be the fact that these guys are supering for 7 mil, and Namek, without his guard, is not able to tank that. Even Rainbowed, even with all these special equips and stuff, there's no way in the world he's taking that. He could take it when he was, you know, with his guard, built up defense, all that stuff. He could tank a Golden Frieza 7 mil super, but now that we're getting into later and later in the fight without his guard, there's no way he's able to do that anymore. And even then, he was barely taking that 7 mil super with all that up. We've gotten up to 7.7. There's no way Nameku's taking that. He's too weak early on to be effective in the Global Dokkan Campaign Special Battle 1. So right now he is on fraud watch. He is on age out alert. Again, he could. I'm not saying he is. Again, this video is not about that. It is putting people on alert because if the meta continues to shift this way, they are done for. But right now, I am putting Namek on red alert. All right, next unit I have is LR Fizz Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. He already was struggling in these fights in slot 2, even supering a ton. You know, he just had issues Again, if you get his links up and maybe you have some support and stuff like for them, then yes, he can tank these bosses. But he was already doing it to a very like, wow, he tanked it, but not gracefully. Again, bosses are hitting way harder now than they did during the 10th anniversary. It's quite insane how fast these bosses got stronger. Like the hardest super was, like if we're not counting Topo, like the final boss supers were like 5.7, 5.8. Like Gold Frieza hit 7 mil, but only for like 2 attacks. And then, you know, Topo could hit up to 10, but you have to hit him a ton for you to get there. And he was probably dead by the time you got there. So like the only relevant bosses were hitting for 5.7, 5.8. You know, they really weren't hitting any higher than that. So Gohan was able to survive those attacks, but barely. Now we're getting to the point where bosses are hitting 7, 7.7. Rose can get up to 24 mil plus. Like, you know, these, like, and I'm not counting that against anybody. You know, Rose, it's like Rose at the very end of the fight. But if we're talking about like the consistency of bosses, Rose turn 1 is hitting 7 mil. The Vegito Blue, or sorry, not Vegito Blue, Sword of Hope Trunks is hitting 7.7 mil. The Murders of Zamasu Corrupted is hitting 7 mil. These guys are real final bosses, and they're hitting 7 mil attacks. This Gohan is not able to hold up to that. Again, he was already not a super meta option, but there's no way you're going to be able to run him anymore right now, which kind of sucks because he's an anniversary LR. A lot of people did enjoy this unit as a selection, but they definitely didn't execute super well on him. So right now, again, he's on alert. Maybe there's some kind of fight coming out where he could be really good in, but as of right now, I wouldn't bank on that, and he's definitely on age-out alert. Alright, the final guy I want to talk about today is Super EZA in Buuhan, the god of Super EZAs, at least on release. It is quite crazy to say that this unit went from how are they ever going to age him out to, guys, it's been 6 months and they're already aging him out with how crazy the bosses have gotten. He's still a really strong option and a really good floater, but I cannot say that I wouldn't put him on age out watch already due to how strong these bosses have gone. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if like almost half the TUR list we have right now is on age out alert. You know, Blue Kaioken easily on age out alert. A lot of people will probably say he's already aged before this, but he's easily on age out alert right now. We have units like Teq Janemba, but I think Teq Janemba will age fairly well due to that dodge. Pycon, I can't say as much because yes, he has 70% dodge, but I just don't love that. He's not taking these guys' attacks at all. The Usher is nice, the dodge is nice, but he's kind of back to exactly where he was before EZA, and that is dodge or die, and you have an Usher. That's it. He cannot tank anything else. Path to Power Goku is, I would say, on alert as well, but it just depends. But again, I would definitely put him on alert right now as well. But really, the reason why I'm highlighting Buuhan, though, is just because he's the one I'm mostly concerned about. Path to Power Goku, I feel like you can kind of get away with him. Janemba and Pycon, they have dodge. Blue Kaioken, easily, but he also has dodge, right? Like, Buuhan is just a slot 2 guy and slot 3 guy already, but there's no way even post-super he's able to tank these supers right now. Again, unless metas change, they start like hitting less, maybe, or something of that sort, you know, maybe he won't age out. But if this is what the meta is going to be, a ton of units are going to age out that only released within six months ago. LR Fizz Pycon is on that list, of course. Daima Vegeta, I would probably put on that list, but his equips might save him. I'm not 100% certain there, but like Tao is even in danger, right? Tao is really good, but without Path to Power Goku, who also might be in threat of aging out due to these bosses, Tao's going to be in problems if he's not facing an extreme int boss. If he's facing either neutral or effective against them, he could be in a lot of trouble here. So overall, I want to hear what you guys think about potential people aging out here. It is pretty crazy that some of these units on this list. Of course, there's other units on this list. It's due time that they finally leave the meta. I love the Brolys, don't get me wrong, but it is a year, and it isn't shocking that they may be having seen their final scene in the meta for now. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below, or if you've had different experiences with these units, if you think possibly that, you know, maybe these guys are not giving a good enough chance, and maybe they actually are a lot more effective right now than I thought. But right now, these new fights that are hitting insanely hard, 7 mil plus, you know, it is like a complete shift in the meta in terms of there's only a very handful of selected units who can handle these kind of bosses right now. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. There's a playlist to all of my voice content on the first link in the comments below. The link under that is all of my Dokkan Battle content. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.